Pass.
Taking your hashtag Hey Mark, hashtag Hey JB questions and comments for the next next little while. We want to make sure that your voices are heard out there and that we're covering our bases, answering as many questions, spotlighting as many opinions as possible from our audience, because people clearly they're invested in this from around the world. Sabrina wants to know, hashtag Hey JB, what else could be the 30-minute interval banging be? You talked about this earlier, Mark. Like there are a lot of different things that banging could have been. People were so
Right.
convinced that the banging came from the Titan sub and the crew down there, but
Yeah.
you were articulating, quite well earlier
And,
that it could have been from a lot of different things.
yeah, even the Coast Guard captain has mentioned on a couple of occasions, because there are certain people who just won't let it go, that um, they're not convinced that it was in 30-minute intervals, um, which means it could have been anything from a series of noises made from the Titanic itself because of its ongoing decomposition. It's making a lot of noise down there. It's not quiet. It could have been a maintenance guy. It could have been somebody doing maintenance on one of the ships in the area, because the sound travels through the hull and into the water and would have been picked up. There's so many sources of noise in the water, and I think the general public just thinks that when you get down there, it's quiet, and it's not. There's, you're a diver, you hear noise when you're in the water.
I'm at
all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially when someone's trying to get your attention. Someone's banging the
Yeah.
back of their tank. Isn't it's such an identifiable sound when someone.
Let me check with the experts, but there doesn't appear to be any connection between the noises and the location on the seafloor. Again, this was a catastrophic implosion of the vessel, which would have generated a significant broadband sound down there that the sonar buoys would have picked up. This was a incredibly complex operation, and we were able to mobilize an immense amount of gear to the site in just a really remarkable amount of time, given the fact that we started without any sort of vessel response plan for this or any sort of pre-stage resources. And so the equipment that was brought on site this morning that we were using was a pelagic ROV capable of operating at 6,000 meters, cameras, sonar, other articulating arms and resources on it. And it, we had to transport it here through C-17 aircraft. This is 2 aircraft that it took to get this up here. And so we've really had the right gear on site and worked as swiftly as possible to bring all of the capabilities that we had to bear to this search and rescue effort. And it was just a huge international and interagency effort to make this happen. So I'm really grateful for all of the responders that came out to support this and really search for the vessel. It is a difficult day for all of us, and it's especially difficult for the families, and our thoughts are with the families today. But this was an immense support, and we had the right gear on the bottom to find it. So thank you.
attempt to recover the bodies, can we ask you, though? The victims, will they be recovered?
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this afternoon. There are no future planned press conferences. Updates will be shared to the USCG Northeast Twitter page, and our staff will be available to take down any questions following this. Thank you.
That those people are gone. And so I think that's extremely hard for them. It's extremely hard for the family. And I think everybody watching, as you said, was hoping for that Hollywood ending. They would find the hull, they would be able to pull it up, and they'd be alive and just in the nick of time. But that wasn't the case. And I think I really wanted that last question to be answered before they shut down the news conference. Will they try to recover the bodies? And is that even possible? I know a lot of people online are just wondering, they're still kind of confused. Like, are they gone? Are they really? And the answer is yes. It's just a matter of they still can't find them. That's the problem. When you're talking about the magnitude of the ocean, you're talking about an implosion of this catastrophic implosion they're talking about of this vessel. To me, that sounds like it was essentially blown apart. And now where those bodies would be able to be recovered is beyond me. So the ROVs are staying on the floor of the ocean for now to try to collect more evidence. You had heard one of the speakers talk about 5 pieces of the debris that was found to give them confirmation that for sure this was the submersible. But the question remains, will those bodies be recovered, and can they at this point?
How are the remains intact? Are they recoverable? This means something to those families, being able to remove the remains, of course, from the depths of the ocean. There is enough loss of life at the bottom of the ocean in this section of the North Atlantic, clearly with, of course, the Titanic 1,600 feet away. The last thing that we want to do is add to the loss of life there. If the human remains, if the bodies, again, based on them being presumed dead, if they can be recovered from the deep, that will, of course, be something that will bring at least something to these families. But it is heartbreaking. This is heartbreaking. And our thoughts and prayers are with everybody. We are going to be taking your questions and your comments, and I hope that our comment section is filled with thoughts and prayers. I know I've seen a lot of emojis coming through, people doing what they can to show how much this means to them as far as how they are impacted by this, and how much they are also thinking about the families of the 5 souls that we have lost this week in the North Atlantic.
And I think it starts to focus on some of the details of how this played out. And I'm glad they got into it a little bit, because a lot of people are going to ask, and once we open the floor for questions, a lot of people are going to ask how this happened. And I found it interesting, the location of where the debris field was away from the bow of the Titanic, far enough that it could answer the question that they weren't entangled with the Titanic wreckage. Right. They didn't make it there, essentially, and then, hit it to cause it a problem to implode itself. To me, it sounds like they were on their way down when they lost connection. That's when it happened. Because the Admiral came on to say that they never heard an implosion, and that would have been an audible sound that would have been picked up like that. So after the fact of hearing the banging or hearing the buoys pick up on the sensors, they would have heard that if it happened after the fact. So was that them banging on the hull of the vessel? Probably not at this point, given the timeline and given what they know.
So much was made of those sounds.
Yes, that was the hope everybody was kind of hanging on to.
Really, I mean, that was the hope that got us by, if you will, and allowed some people to really rally behind the chance of them being alive, floating, or at the bottom, or on the way up to the surface. All these questions that we brought on various experts, and we, of course, tried to feature on stream. And this is, look, there's no way to sugarcoat it, folks. This is a tragic event with a catastrophic implosion.
Yeah, and keep in mind, on an implosion of that magnitude, I mean, there may not be remains. I mean, there may be.
That's right. Because
I mean, the hull itself may be gone. I mean, we just don't know the magnitude of. Catastrophic is a pretty strong word. So
the pressure chamber, the hull that basically maintains this bubble of air beneath the surface, protects and the pressurized area that protects the passengers aboard was compromised, and that, of course, makes it virtually impossible for anyone to survive a catastrophic implosion, a mile and a half roughly down towards the ocean floor. It's just it's an extremely sad outcome. But people who
farther than that. Yeah,
I mean,
very deep.
they were about an hour and 45 minutes. So yeah, they would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 minutes to 2 hours on the way down when they
Almost
lost
there,
contact. And that contact, we were talking on stream for hours, Josh, hours since 5 a.m. this morning. We've been talking about how, oh my goodness, could you recover a phone? If they were in there and they had their final moments, could they have written a note or taken a selfie video? And is there a chance that a phone could be recovered from the depths and that a memory chip could be resurfaced and provide us with answers? Is there any final documentation from the passengers aboard? I'm very curious to hear from Mark Martin at some point when he rejoins our live stream, but is there any chance that the contact was lost and then the implosion happened? Was it so quick that that they didn't know what happened? Or was there a moment in time when they realized something was dramatically wrong and had time to document what happened inside that hull?
I think if there's even a crack in that thing, nobody's going to even know about it.
Right.
It's milliseconds.
Right. And depends on the,
and you know what?
on the breach itself. And
compared to the other discussion we've been having about suffocating and days and that stuck in the, it's a better case scenario in my opinion. That would be awful. Both ways are awful, but that would have been way more awful to be stuck there knowing you're going to suffocate to death.
Mark concurred, and he's been doing 5 decades worth of underwater exploration, and he says, look, and I think you'll be hard-pressed to find anybody that feels otherwise, that if that's going to be the end, not going out with pain and suffering. It's not the news that we want to be talking about at this moment, but
the admirals, really backing the response. I mean, he was defending the response, saying it's one of the best responses there could have been. They had the right equipment on the bottom of that ocean, and they found this relatively quickly, considering the scenario they were facing. I mean, this is something that's unprecedented. That's never been done before, and they were able to get a rover down there that quickly to find the debris field. So he's standing behind that, and I think there'll be a lot of questions. Of course, there's going to be a lot of questions in so many directions. But in this case, I like the fact that the ROVs are going to stay down there and continue to look, because they're going to continue to try to find every piece of the submersible they can to try to put together a better picture of what happened.